Welcome to episode 5 of the Cobra Cast. Before we get started and I introduce my guest, I'm going to introduce my sponsors. So, first of all, massive shout out to John Dillinger, UK top team, Top Dog Security, the best and most reliable security firm in the UK. Dale Brown, D&B Painting and Decorating, a good friend of mine for all your painting and decorating needs. Get in touch with Dale Brown. You can get in touch with him on Facebook. And also Apex Solutions. Now, this is a mouthful. Apex Solutions are a top company. They do the health and safety, the critical checks, mainly non-destructive testing in the... what is it now? It's a mouthful, this. In the petrochemical, leisure and general engineering services. There you go, I got it out. So, yeah, massive shout out to Apex Solutions, David Duckworth, top man. Also, iBox. I'm a sponsored iBox fighter myself, and they sponsor around 50% of the bare knuckle fighters down on the lower level, including myself at all levels. So, shout out to iBox, Sandra Reese and Tim Reese. Shout out to Trevor Abraham, Brave Faces UK, a non-profit charitable organisation run by Trevor Abraham. He's a top man. So shout out to him. Also shout out to Chiefs Health UK, Chiefs Kitchen in Nelson, for a top company. They used to provide me with my meal preps during my fight camps. So massive shout out to you guys. Now, no further, we introduce the guest. It is Josh Emmott. How are you doing, Josh, my friend?
Very good, my mate. How are you doing?
Good to see you again, my friend. Good to see you. So,
always
yeah,
a pleasure.
episode 5 is Josh Emmott. Now, Josh, for me, this is a brilliant podcast because the first 4 episodes I've been very familiar with my guests. So I've known the story, I've known the background, and a lot of the content and a lot of the stuff they've said I was already familiar with. Whereas with Josh, we know each other, don't we, Josh? We've met each other a few times. Josh has trained in my gym. But his background and his story, generally speaking, I'm not familiar with. So today, this is going to be quite enlightening for me. So, Josh, we'll go right back to the beginning, mate, where you grew up and what you're about, mate. So, yeah, we'll start there, mate. We'll go right back to the beginning, my friend.
No worries. Yeah, I'm Josh Emmott. I'm from Heywood in Lancashire, 35-year-old, father of 1 son, got a partner. She's got a daughter as well who I love. Yeah, just a blessed all-round guy, I think, with my family and stuff. Like I said, I grew up in Heywood, born in 89, so grew up through the 90s in, you know, what's known as one of the most deprived areas in the country, one of the top 10 most deprived areas in the country.
Yeah.
Part of the borough of Rochdale.
So there you go, Haywood's a part of the borough of Rochdale, so Greater Manchester.
Yeah, Greater Manchester. I said Lancashire because, you know, traditionally we have a problem with being dragged into Greater Manchester and Rochdale.
On a
you know what I mean?
Technicality there, it's...
I'm just doing that for all the locals.
Yes, mate,
from Lancashire.
He's staying true to the he's staying true to the lads. Right, yeah, so you've got a young lad you mentioned there, Presley. I've met Presley.
You have, yeah.
Full of beans, very bright kid. So tell us more about your young man. Tell us more about the little man.
Yeah, Presley came along 2017. If I'm being honest, I didn't think I'd ever be a dad. I didn't think that had come to me just because of lifestyle choices and sort of the path that my life sort of taken. Even at the time that Presley was born, when I was with his mum, she had a child from a previous relationship, so I was quite comfortable with that, you know, at the time.
Right, yeah,
I was cool with him. I was cool with having him around. I'd vocalised that and made that known. You know, if I don't biologically have a child of my own, it's not really a problem for me.
Yeah,
I was quite happy with it. But, he came along, completely changed my outlook on life. I suppose most dads would say the same.
Oh, 100%.
Changed my approach to it.
And I could see the way you were with him in the gym, mate. I could see that love. Do you know?
I idolise him,
mate. You have with him, mate. And I've got a friend myself who's a single father, a single parent, and it's priceless, mate.
I idolise him,
bond
mate.
between father and son, it's priceless, mate.
What he brings to me, what he does for me, and what he saved me from, he's never going to understand, you know what I mean? Like I said, I think it's quite a common tale for dads. With the struggles that come with just being a man and a dad. I think that we put an attachment on our kids. Or the children that are in our lives, even if they're not biologically yours and you're a stepdad or whatever you are, mum's partner, you're playing a positive influence, you're playing a role in the kid's life. You need to put value on that yourself. You need to respect it.
100%.
You need to feel it in here, and you need to realise that they are looking up to you. And, you know, he'll never understand the changes that he's brought to me. He'll never understand what he's brought to the table for me.
I think he will when he's older. I think he will when he's older, when his mind can comprehend and when he looks back and hindsight's a very powerful thing, in it, Josh. Yeah. And I think when he gets older and he reflects and he looks back, and it's good what you mentioned there about whether you're a stepfather, because science doesn't dictate to me. Everyone knows I'm a stepfather to 6 girls.
Yeah.
They're not mine scientifically, but they are mine, and my little imprint now, because I've been with the mother for 9 years and since they were little babies.
Yeah.
So you covet, you learn from what you see and hear every day. My little imprint now, like even my sense of humour, my little quirks and stuff, has rubbed off on them.
Yeah.
So it's the sight, the sound, the smell that's there. It's the man that's there in it. It's not, science does not dictate.
No,
does
not
it?
at all, mate.
You know, but it's a beautiful thing when you see, because it's not. Let's be honest, it's not the typical run of things. It's not the stereotypical run of things. A man raising a child by himself.
No, it's not. You know, yeah, I do sort of like a 50-50 sort of split in regards to Presley at the minute. His mum's in his life, loves his mum. Like I said, she's got an older son as well. I'll never not be in his life.
Presley still sees and has a relationship with his mother.
Yeah, he sees and has a relationship with his mum.
That's brilliant.
He always will do. He's got his older brother. His older brother they're very, very close. I'd say probably closer than most lads are together, and most brothers are. They've literally joined at the hip. They're like intrinsically connected. It's crazy the way they are with each other. You know, when you see
like the yin to the yang, like they'll finish each other's sentences.
I was just gonna say, do you know when you watch like the Craze film? The one with him out of Spandau Ballet. And they're there and they sort of finish each other. That's what they like when they start each other. It's crazy, mate. It's mad. It's mad to watch them. I'll never not have he's called Oliver. His mum won't have a problem with me mentioning his name. Oliver's the reason that I was ready to be a dad. I'll say that on record now. Like Oliver, when he came into my life, I was still a man behaving like a boy in quite a lot of ways.
I can resonate with that.
I was a man behaving like a boy. Josh. I had my profession. I was working in sport work at the time. I work in engineering now. I had my profession. I had my setup. I had my life. But there was a lot of changes that needed to be made. And just by this little face looking at me and, you know, Dada, and looking at you for everything for the first time ever.
Powerful. And
picking him up out the cot and looking at him, I thought, you know what? For the first time in my life, the blinkers went on and I went tunnel visioned and I was like, this lad needs a proper setup. He needs a house. I need to get him out of the area where we were living. And I felt in my heart for the first time, I thought, I need a new area. I'm gonna bring him back over to Heywood, and we did. And my ex, for all intents and purposes, you know, she went with the journey. She believed in me. She trusted me. And she said, yeah, how come we're? So I moved them. They were living in Salford in Weast at the time. We'd only been together for 6 months at this point. And I said, look, I'm going back over to Heywood. I weren't driving. I didn't have a driving licence and I was working in Horwich. I was getting up at 5 a.m. to start work at 8 and then I was working till 10 o'clock at night on support worker shifts. Right. By the time I got the buses back home from Horwich on the other side of Bolton, I'd have to go into Bolton and then out to Salford Precinct, then walk over Bewley Park into East. Right, I was getting home at midnight, gone midnight, and I was back out the door at 5 a.m. And I was doing it 6-7 days a week.
Schedule.
Just to
Ruthless schedule.
Because I'd seen this lad. And I'd seen this little boy,
you
and
become
I'd looked
selfless.
at him, and I just thought, he needs it.
He's 120% reliant on you, and so that responsibility hit you like a brick, didn't it, mate?
For the first time in my life, I felt it.
And that tells me a lot about you as well. That tells me a lot about you, the sort of man that you are. And see, and I've spent time with you, mate. You can energy fields, mate. You can, when you're in someone's presence, you can just sense that sort of thing anyway. And I knew you were a good human being and a good guy. Likewise. Without knowing the variables, without knowing any of the other variables, I knew you were a good guy. And you mentioned something there briefly, so I'd want to get on to this. What fascinates me about you, Josh, you mentioned about being a support worker there, so I'm going to get on to your career choices, your CV, the work you've done now. Me and you have spoke about mental health and stuff like that, and we've gone quite deep and we've elaborated and we've had a good long conversation back and forth with the voice notes. Do you want to explain to everyone what you've done, your credentials, what you've done for work? And this is why I wanted to have you on, because all my other guests, it was a bit of a different dynamic to the podcast, whereas with you, this is what I'm trying to focus on here, people, is giving the little man a voice. This is what I'm trying to focus on. I'm not chasing views, I'm not clickbait. I want to give guys like Josh, and when I speak to Josh, he fascinates me because he's got a really good understanding and handle on mental health. And when I've spoke to him, he's enlightened me, and I've had a few conversations with him, so I'd like to delve more into that, mate. So would you like to tell the audience, the people that are watching, what you've done work-wise, and we can go from there and elaborate?
Yeah, of course. So originally left school, 16 years old, like most people do. Always been a little bit different in my approach to stuff. I'd done little bits of charity stuff and been involved in stuff, but I left school and I started working at my local community centre, Crimblecroft Community Centre, and I wanted to say the name on record because without them, I wouldn't have ever gone on to anything else that I've done.
Crimblecroft, shout out Crimblecroft.
Crimblecroft Community Centre and the Rochdale and District Play Action Council. There's a lady there called Kay Carrington. Kay Carrington, I'm friends with her son, I'm friends with her daughter. She watched me grow up. She used to facilitate play schemes I was on and stuff. She took me under her wing. She was paying me 2005 over a tenner an hour. You know, it was unheard of back then to do stuff. She trusted me with stuff that she probably shouldn't have trusted me with because I was a ragtag little tall rag kid from Heywood.
And even you can admit that.
Yeah,
back then,
I was. You know what I mean? I was well.
So even you're surprised with the trust and faith she put in you. But
yeah, and there was no boundaries or no anything. But she trusted me in ways that nobody did at the time. And I originally started working in a preschool setting. So I worked in a preschool with kids. Doing the typical nursery stuff, mate. We're colouring, we're doing plaster Paris, we're making Play-Doh, we're playing. But through it, I learned lots of skills and I got training and I was on an apprenticeship and I did my year on it. And I did my year. I got my qualifications. I struggled through it. I can imagine now with hindsight, I was probably quite difficult to have as an employee. I got quite a lot of negative connotations. You can't imagine being a 17-year-old lad and going to work in a nursery every day.
No, exactly.
You get the sort of non-titles and this sort of stuff.
Yeah, so I can imagine, Josh.
I rolled it out knowing that what I was doing was going to lead me on to other stuff.
Yeah.
My apprenticeship finished there. And at the time, we had a project called the New Deal for Communities, which identified the 30 poorest communities in the country and give them a big cash injection, and Heywood got it. So there was a company called At Work, and what they was doing was like employability, basically getting all the unemployed in Heywood into some sort of, they call it NEAT now, don't they? Not in education or training.
Yeah.
So it was these that they was trying to get the hardest to reach people, and they employed me as a community outreach worker, and it was part of the New Deal for Communities, and you got these 6-month placements to go in and do these jobs. So I went in. I was doing employability, but I was networking for the first time then. I was out in the community, so I was making these links.
You was building bridges, making links, and and
I was going to areas of my own town that I'd been sort of like through my childhood been told we don't go to these areas. You have these areas, don't you?
Yeah,
don't go there. And in the 90s in Heywood,
you kind of go. You can't go through there. It was like, And
in the 90s in Heywood, anyone who's listening from Heywood will be able to sort of resonate with it. Like you saw kids walking down the street in the socks because the trainers had been nicked and they were crying going back to their mum and stuff. So you didn't go to these areas. You know what I mean? You didn't go to them. So for the first time I went, and I was like, wow, you know what I mean? And then the company said to me, "We've got an opportunity for you to go down to London and community outreach in London." And I was like, right, I've always been in Heywood, me.
Yeah, so to you, the world was Heywood. That was I
forgot to London. What am I going to do? And I'm 19 at this point.
I think every working class lad could resonate. That resonates.
So I was like, what do I do? And I thought, you know what? Be bold and courageous. You know, remind yourself who you are. You're a Joshua. You're bold and courageous. Let's go for it. Let's do it.
This.
Went down. Turns up. Hired me an apartment on London Bridge. So I'd never even seen London Bridge, and I've got this apartment looking over it. I've got the South Bank and Mayor of London's offices here on the side. They give me my expenses and first class Virgin down there. And I'm like, what is this like? I'm a lad from a small town, working class family, mum and dad that
bit of a pinch yourself moment.
Didn't know what to do, you know what I mean? I'm on the phone to my mum.
Felt a bit out of place in that,
We didn't have video phones, but I'm on the phone to my mum, like walking around this apartment, like it's got a sliding door that goes into this. I walk in and there's like a concierge. He's like an Alfred out of Batman who says, "Hiya, sir." And I'm on the phone to my mum, like telling him, my mum's like, enjoy it. But then they said your outreach areas are Lavender Hill in Clapham, Brixton, and Hackney.
Jesus.
I had never been down to London.
Yeah, well, all those, I think if anyone's watching from down south, they've been familiar with those areas. I think I've boxed in all those boroughs as well, mate. Yeah.
So you've seen my face and you've seen my get up, and I turn up in Brixton, and I'm like, I know you're unemployed and you're long-term unemployed, but I can help you. Get to foot.
Yeah, goodbye.
Plenty of it, you know what I mean? Door slammed, this, that, and the other. project finished there, and I thought, you know what? I'd been in and involved in the sort of like, not involved, I weren't in a band or anything like that, but I was a known face on the Manchester punk music scene at the time. I had friends that were playing in it, and I thought, you know what? I'm moving to the city. I'm going to move to the city. I've always had a bad habit with my mum and dad of just dropping stuff on them.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't say now, I stay quiet, and then I'm like, just letting you know, Monday, I'm moving out.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
just letting you know, here's my girlfriend and here's the kids. I just drop shit on them. My mum and dad hate me for it.
Very abrupt.
Yeah,
very
they just hate me for it because I just don't see that there's whether it's my neurological pathways or what it is. I don't see that there's. What's the problem? It's my girlfriend. You're my mum and dad. You need to meet each other. There, yeah,
yeah.
So I went home and I'd been in Manchester and through these jobs, and while I was working, I was going into Manchester at these gigs, and I'd met a bunch of lads in a band called Harryjan, who are still a Manchester punk band now, like a punky reggae band. Absolutely, I'll go on to them further, and I do want to speak about them boys and what they did for me at the time and stuff. So I'll only touch on it for now, but I met them, and I was going around gigs and doing what I was doing, and basically met a girl called Olivia, and she just said, my housemate's moving out. Lived in Longside on Richmond Grove, so it's like Longside borders, sort of Longside Victoria Park.
I'm familiar with that, with that area, yeah.
Down the side of Manchester Royal there on Havershade Road. So she said, my flat, 200 quid, and you've got your room and that. So I thought, you know what, rather than like being in the squats or not having permanent housing, I'll go down there. I knew that I still wanted to push on with some stuff, and I've always come from a working class background, so it's in the fabric of me to just go and graft.
You to go and graft, yeah. Work for what you have. 100%.
Yeah, so I thought, I'm not just being a bit of a vagrant and a layabout. I'm going to go to Manchester, I'm going to get a job. But then I'm nearer to everything that I want to be near. So I went to Manchester, moved into here, blah, blah, blah. Goes down to the job centre in Russia, and we've got a job. Company was called Challenge for Change. And it ended up on The Secret Millionaire. Do you remember that on Channel 4?
The Secret Millionaire.
Yeah, so I ended up on there.
I do. So just for the honest, how old are you at this point now, Josh?
I'm 20.
You're 20 years old at this point.
Yeah, I'm 20 years old, and I'd done a bit already, and moved into Manchester, and I went down for this interview. And when I went for the interview, I had a friend called Bowie. Good guy, Bowie, man. Good guy. Don't see much of him now. You just drift apart though in your life.
Yeah, it happens. It happens in life, doesn't it, brother? It happens.
Good guy from down south, from Bideford in Devon. Really cool guy. Bowie, Linton Kwesi King is called.
That's his name. I was going to say, what's his full name?
His middle name's Linton Kwesi, after Linton Kwesi Johnson, or Linton Kwesi King, who's a reggae like poet singer.
Right.
Like, really cool guy. Really enjoyed my time with him. And when I turned up for the job interview, Bummy walks through the door. So I'm like, are we going for the same job here? What's going on? So we're talking to each other. The guy came in who run the charity at the time. He was called Chris Whiteley. He used to play rugby for Wigan. Really big character. He's ended up with these two scruffy punk kids sat in front of him right, for this job interview. And it's like a Go Ape type centre.
Right,
that's what we were working at. But what he specialised in is you couldn't book it. So you couldn't go online and just book it and go do it. You had to be a group.
Right,
so it was school exclusions, marginalised kids, Warrington Wolves rugby team, Manchester United youth players. These were the sort of groups that were coming in all the time. Homeschool kids and stuff like this. So it was good, and it was good, and I was working there, and then my grandma got ill. I ended up moving back home. Touch on that again, just talking about my career, aren't we? And then moved back home. Grandma were ill. Grandma passed away, and my friend Andy Williamson, who plays in Harryjan, he's the guitarist in Harryjan. He messaged me and he said, "I've got this job at this psychiatric hospital. I'm working on a low secure ward. It's chilled. Nice job. You've done support work. I think it'd be pretty perfect for you."
So this period of in time. So what was it? So you were 20 years old at this.
Yeah, probably
this point in
22.
So that was your introduction. All that there. That was your introduction, and that was almost like, so to speak, your foot in the door.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of.
Yeah.
It's gone
now
up
I'm
and
like, all right.
Yeah, and then it's getting serious. So this is what I wanted to touch on. This phase now of your career. And
Yeah.
this is where it's going to start getting quite heavy. I mean, me and Josh have spoke about this and some of the stories he's told me and some of the things he'd experienced. These are the sort of things that don't just go away. They stay with you. Even at the time, I can imagine he'll tell you some of these stories. Things that would occur. They don't just go away. They've got to go somewhere. Even if you bury these things, once you've seen the human condition in its worst form, and you've seen mental illness in its more severe form, that's got to go somewhere. That you can't just get rid of that. So I'll allow Josh now to elaborate a little bit and speak further on that. So yes, Josh, mate.
Yeah, so I applied for a job at the hospital that my friend was working at. I'd never seen a psychiatric institution or anything like that before. I don't think you do unless you work in them, and everybody has this sort of image, don't they, that you can relate to or you can grasp on. One flew over the cuckoo's nest.
Yeah, that's
Sarah Connor in Terminator 2 on the bed.
Yeah.
This sort of stuff, you know what I mean?
The stereotypical
that sort of
opinion
stuff.
and view. And this is why, again, mate, sorry for interrupting you and stuttering your flow. This is why I wanted you on, because I've got, I feel like I've got a good understanding of depression, mental health, because of myself. I don't think I've got clinical depression. I'll just put that out there. I think mine was brought on through a lot of the drugs that I took at an early age before my mind had fully developed.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, it's a bit of a taboo subject as well, isn't it?
It still is. It still is, even though mental health's now becoming more prevalent and being spoken about, and you've had cases in the public eye, easy ones, Caroline Flack and the Be Kind, and and you've had recently Liam Payne from One Direction, and even people going well far back, Corey Feldman, the actor. Who's obviously disclosed a lot of abuse and stuff like that.
I was following that closely,
Macaulay Culkin, all these sort of the two twins. What were they called? Sarah Kate and Ashley, or something like that. The Olsen twins, and then
that's correct.
So there's all these things. Even when you look at musicians in England and stuff like that, there's always some sort of mental health or substance abuse that's linked to it.
Yeah.
So it fascinated me. Went down for the interview. Quite an intense interview at the time because of the nature of the job and stuff.
Yeah.
And I got the job. So then they said, right, you got to come down for 2 weeks training in-house, and you're going to learn to do MAPA, which is management of actual and potential aggression, restraint, control and techniques.
Right.
You're going to learn, we're going to make you uncomfortable. You had to stand nose to nose with each other and see how long you could manage it, just making eye contact.
Because that might occur
because
in
you're going to get these
scenario.
levels of aggression.
And you're 20, so I've got to keep realising, you're 20 years old at this point.
Yeah, probably 2021.
2021. So at 2021, and I can only imagine, Josh, remember, and not everyone's the same, everyone has a different journey, I was always a late bloomer in life, but so at 21 I was still very wet behind the ears.
I was.
So I can only imagine, but this is something I can only imagine how at 2021 being in that particular field or being in that particular area of work would be really, really challenging and taxing on the mind and the subconscious. But
it was, but I've always had, even now with the podcast today, it's a pressured environment. I've got a camera looking at me.
It is, mate.
I
stuttered on my sponsors.
Yeah,
mate.
and I've got a stutter as well, and I'm gonna have to expose myself through this, and I'm gonna have to be vulnerable, and I'm gonna have to let my vulnerabilities out and speak about moments. But it's not a blasé attitude or a lack of respect for it. I have a naiveness in myself. I think it is, and that's all I've been able to put it down to.
A certain naivety that allows you to be able to.
I don't think about it.
Exactly.
Right now, I don't see that.
I love what you're saying.
I'm just having a conversation with my mate.
Conversation with two men chewing the fat. Now, when I said this is what I love, this sort of thing, it resonates with me. You said that there. So people used to say to me, Seamus, how can you go and fight that often every single week? And Beethoven could look at a piano and just play. I can look at that and just play.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can describe it. There's certain things in life, you're meant to be doing it, or it's a bit of you because you just do it. It's almost on a reflex, you think about it. And I can tell when I've spoke to you about the mental health side of things, I truly, truly believe it. But I truly believe everyone, what's meant for you won't go by. And I truly believe you were meant to be in that field. Yeah. You were meant to gain those life experiences. You were meant to be here with me now. We're meant to be talking,
Yeah,
mate.
of course,
I
mate.
think it took about 4 or 5 weeks.
It took a while, but it is what it is,
But
isn't
we
it?
got
You know,
here,
it's
mate.
life.
And I knew we'd end up here eventually, mate.
Yeah,
And I
we'll
knew
get
we
there.
would. But
We'll get there.
yeah, what's meant for you won't go by you. And when you said that there, it made me smile because I remember thinking that everyone used to always say to me, "How can you do that?" I can't explain it to you. It's just meant for me.
Whether it's a
I'm just meant
naivety
to be
or
a
it's here
naivety
or-
that's in there, but there's something that just feels right here.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna go with this flow, and that's
Yeah.
what I always felt like with that. And maybe, like I said, that's indicative of the fact that you're meant to be here talking to us about this, mate, because
Yeah.
I've never had anybody. I mean, I've spoken to many people, Josh, about mental health, depression, and I'm not an expert, far from it, mate, but never have I spoke to somebody about the psychological aspects of things and been as fascinated as when I've spoke to you, hence why you sat here with me now. So I'm going to allow you to go on, mate, from what you were saying there. I'm going to allow you to go on because I've took up enough of the airtime. So I'm going to let you go on, my friend. So you're 21 years old. You've just been offered this job.
Yeah, I'd lost my grandma a few months earlier, decided I needed to get back in work, got offered the job, went on the training. About 20 of us. You do your 2 weeks training before you find out what service you're going to go on, because obviously the people who are training you are identifying your strengths and what you've got naturally in you to match you to the best service.
Right, I see.
So obviously me being me, small lad, vocally, quite confident, quite a strong personality when I go into the room. I've learnt this over years that I can be quite a strong character. I never thought I was, because I put too much of an onus on my physical size rather than the size of my presence, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think quite a lot of people do that. I went through my training and there was me and there was another lad called James, quite a big fella as well, and I think he'd done some security work and stuff. And then there was an Irish fella from Northern Ireland, Mike Murphy, we called.
Mike Murphy,
And he'd
proper
been
Irish name.
Yeah, and he'd been and served in Northern Ireland for the English Army.
Right.
So I was like, wow, I was fascinated by him. I was like, tell me about it.
Yeah,
So he was telling me about the mums coming out offering cups of tea with shredded glass in and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And now he was an absolute traitor, and he was like, I can't go back to Ireland, because if I go back to Northern Ireland, he was from Belfast, and he was like, if I go back to Belfast, you can imagine.
You could,
You know what I mean? So I was like, so he'd sort of settled over here and stuff, and finished the 2 week training. This is just how it goes when you get a job in a psychiatric institution. You do 2 weeks training, and then on the last day they come to you and tell you what service you're going to go on. So I won't name the hospital that I worked at. I'm not sure legally if I could get in any sort of like bother for it or out like that.
Yeah,
you know
best
what I mean?
just
just cover myself. Because it is, these high profile people contained within these institutions.
Right, interesting.
You will have the press. Like they told us, part of your training is if the press, you have a press officer. If you get approached as you're walking in and out of work off the press, like people will offer you money for the stories of people that are in
I'm guessing the people that were in, and again, 21 years old, and you're dealing with these. That is crazy. So the people that were in that unit, that particular establishment, so to speak, some of these people, I'm guessing, if you're being warned, you had a press officer, people who were making you aware of certain things, there must have been some high-profile people inside those units. You don't have to elaborate, but there must have been.
You read about them in your newspaper, and because you had the newspapers on the ward, when they was in the newspapers, we had to take the pages out. So then the lads on the ward used to be kicking off and saying, "Who's in the paper today? Who's in the paper today?"
Wow.
So that sort of stuff was day to day. But yeah, they allocated me to a service, and they said you're going to go to Ward A, medium secure forensic. So the guys have been convicted of an offence.
Right.
And it's a medium secure. So they said we're the only step down, and it was a personality disorder service. So they said, we've got guys with triple PD diagnoses, because that's quite common. But then we had quadruple PD diagnoses, which is quite unheard of even in the profession. And they said, you go down there, it's quite a bouncy ward. A bouncy ward is what they said to me.
That was the term they used, the bouncy.
A bit of a bouncy ward. Turns out, in the end, I ended up...
Bouncy was an understatement.
Yeah, in the end, I ended up calling it the ship that's always rocking, because you were literally like this all day long. But allocating me my ward, I went down with these two blokes, first day on the ward, and they overstate the security level of it to make you, obviously, receptive to it and a bit more, and to build your awareness and vigilance, because they know what you're going into, but you don't, you're naive to it. So we walked on the ward, and they say to you, look, stick to the walls, walk against the wall into the office. We're going to go into the office, we're going to introduce you to your new team, and then we'll set you out on the ward area. some of the patients will be out there and you'll see them. And then obviously the day after you'll start on your shifts on the ward. You do 12.5 hour shifts, 7 in the morning till 7:30 at night. Week 4, week 3, get every other weekend off. Here you go. So I'm like, I'm buzzing at the time because I'm like, I can't believe that this little crooked ass kid from Haywood's ended up in this professional environment. I'm like, fucking hell,
I can
this is well
imagine,
good.
yeah.
So I'm going in there, me like a Cheshire Cat, fucking beaming, walking through these doors, and they're like, we've got airlock doors, so you fob in, that door won't open till that one's closed. It's all for security. We're a step-down service for Ashworth Hospital, so quite a lot of the guys that we get have been long-term incarcerated at Ashworth Hospital, 20 years plus, quite a lot of them, and this is the next step down. But it's more restrictive in here than it is at Ashworth because they've been eating off porcelain plates with knives and forks in Ashworth. They come to us, they're on plastics. There's no boiling water, there's this, there's that, because this is private and Ashworth's in the NHS.
Right, I see.
Ashworth do perimeter security where the staff stay on the outside, they told us, whereas we do relational security where we stay where we're shoulder to shoulder with people, and you're sat next to me like you would be now. I'm sat like that with a patient, we're playing chess, we're doing what we're doing. So we walked in, man, and went to the office, and then we went back the next day, and this James lad, he was dripping sweat off his chin, like physically dripping sweat off his chin, and he's come over to me and he's like, what do you think about this, mate? I'm like, well, it's all right. Get introduced to some patients in a bit. We'll see what's what. And he's like, I can't fucking do it. Can't do it. And I'm like, wow, what's up? And he's like, I'm fucking shit. I'm shit scared. I'm rattling. Bloke's shaking like a shitting dog, man. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, you'll be all right, pal. Stick with me. We'll do what we need to do. We'll get through it. We're having none of it. Goes over to office, gets on phone, rings up reception. You need to send somebody down. Didn't even want to walk out the office to walk off the ward. They had to get staff come and escort him offside, shit himself. Saw him in Bury a few months later and spoke to him, and he was just like, mate, what is that place? You know what I mean? What is it?
Wow, so
I never thought it'd be
physically
couldn't even walk out the office, mate, to go onto the communal area. So I gone out onto the communal area, walked out, and they said, look, we're going to introduce you. I was on a male service, so we had 13 patients, medium secure. On that service, I had one patient who wasn't a sexual offender in some way. So I had 1 out of 13 blokes who were a rapist, a paedophile, or a murderer. And over my time working at the hospital, I think I only worked with 5 or 6 guys.
And how long did you work at the hospital for, Josh?
5-6 years.
So you were there for 5-6 years. So you were 26.
It made you a pensioner in that industry, basically. You know what I mean?
Aged you,
to work for that long, they used to have the joke that like you're a pensioner now, because you managed to ride out that long. And there were people that had done 20-30 years in it. You know what I mean? They were, but the hospital that I worked at, I worked on personality disorder on the medium secure. We had deaf and hearing services, so we had deaf, medium secure ladies, low secure ladies. We had deaf males, low and medium secure. We had an acute intervention service, like a rehab service, and then we had adolescents from 11 years old.
Yeah.
Adolescents are flat out refused.
Yeah.
Don't care what they've done. Quite a lot, and the conflict in my head at the time was that on the side that I worked on, we've got the perpetrators. And as far as I could see, the kids, they were the victims that had acted on some abuse or something that had been carried out against them. And that's why they found themselves in the positions that we're in. I don't believe that 12 and 13-year-old little girls need locked up and incarcerated in these institutions. They should be still on playgrounds.
100%.
Swooning over Justin Bieber in One Direction, brother, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, I couldn't do it, even though I didn't have kids at my time.
I
couldn't do it.
brother,
I used to go on emergency response over there when I needed to. I was a response officer. I was a security officer. I was respected over time there. Even if not for my personality, the way I carried out my work.
The way you conducted yourself
as a professional. Conducted myself as a professional with the patients. I was very much respected, I was. But yeah, it's a high-intensity environment. I've seen people, you know... What people seem to forget is these environments are made up of people that the prisons don't want. So when people go in, they lose their heads in prison and they go down on the numbers.
They
go down to welfare. And then the numbers can't handle them anymore.
Yeah, and then they end up...
And the healthcare wing can't handle them. They section them off. Yeah. Or if their offences are that bad that they need to disappear from society and go to the darkest corners. These are literally the darkest corners of society that these people live in, and people have to go and facilitate the caring.
So I'd like to talk on a few things. One, how that affected you mentally. So now the aftermath.
Yeah.
So you're in that job. You've gone to 26, 27 years of age.
Around
And you've
about
got a job.
that, yeah.
What effect did that have on your psyche? Because that's got, like I just touched on earlier
yeah.
briefly, it's got to have an effect. And at this point, so when did you have Presley again, mate? How old were you when you had Presley?
28, so I lived on my own through this job.
So you've come out of this job, and within 12 months of leaving this job, Presley's...
Sort of, yeah. Time frames are a bit hazy in my head, but yeah, it'll be around
mate,
about that. Maybe
I
a year
understand
or
that,
two.
mate, completely. When
Maybe
people
a
ask
year
me
or
things,
two,
I'm
but
like, don't ask me for the exact month or year.
Yeah, I can't.
I just know it's in and around that time.
Yeah, I can't even tell you when my own birthday is half at time. You know what I mean? But
I can
but yeah,
relate
it was
to
around
that,
about
brother.
that. But at the time I was working there, I lived around the corner in a 1-bedroom flat that I had myself. Worked at the hospital. I was single. I weren't involved, and I weren't really being all that sociable either. The nature of that job is that it does take quite a lot of your life. 12-hour days, 4 or 5 days a week.
Brother.
Then it's not the best paying job, so you end up doing overtime. And I found over time, even when I was working, it's the reason that I left it. I thought I'm becoming quite institutionalised here myself. In my approach to quite a lot of things, I was really black and white, because it's yes or no. It's yeah, you can do it, or no, you can't.
So it was
You're
leaking
locked
into
up.
other aspects of your life, and you
Oh
felt
mate,
it almost...
I woke up in the morning every single morning at 5 o'clock, whether I was in work or not. I had a shower, and because them patients have the breakfast at 7:30, my breakfast run. Because they eat at 12:30, my dinner run.
Yeah.
When I got up in the morning, I made my bed and I folded my clothes and put them there. I lined my trainers up on the outside of the room, like all the patients' rooms that I was spinning did.
Yeah.
And I thought, yo, I'm getting into the point here where I actually honestly thought that I was going to get to the point where I'd blur the lines between support and patient. And I wouldn't know whether I was on that side of the fence or this side of the fence.
On the other side of the fence.
Because quite a lot of these guys have a lot of relatable qualities and come from the same sort of backgrounds as I do.
This is what I wanted to touch on, brother. This is what I wanted to touch on. The aftermath, like you said, then the lines being blurred. That has to go somewhere.
It does.
You can't just work that job, even for 12 months, never mind 5 or 6 years, and then just go, right, I'm taking my ball on, I'm walking away, and my life's going to go on, and that's forgot about.
No,
there's no way.
No,
there's no
didn't.
way. And another thing as well I want to touch on as well, what personally, from having that experience yourself in that field for 5, 6 years, what do you think, or if anything, would you change about the system? Is it broken? Does it work, my friend? Do you know what I mean? Or is there things in there that you would literally be able to identify straight away and go, I would change that?
I'd change quite a lot.
Yeah.
I'd change what's going on out here.
Yeah.
First and foremost. I don't believe that mental health services are really as robust as they should be. I don't believe that people get the support that they need. Well, they don't. It's not that I don't believe it. They don't.
You just
it's
know.
There. It's on the front page of every newspaper every day. And that's why I'm so vocal about mental health now and trying to bring change.
You are very vocal, mate. When we've spoke, this is why, like I said, it's led you to being here today. When we've spoke, even some of the things you were saying there have fascinated me. I almost forgot these cameras were there, and I'm locked in and listening to you, mate, because it's fascinating, mate. It really is fascinating. And when you were describing about the lines being blurred there, and I was trying to put myself in that headspace, and especially being a 21-year-old guy, 22, 23, in that particular field, and some of the things you were saying there, it's quite daunting, mate. If you put yourself in it, it's daunting.
You've got a group of lads there who, and at the time I was working there is a patient. Yeah, he won't mind me saying his name. I'm in touch with him still now.
Good stuff.
When I left the hospital, I got classified as a safeguard risk.
Right.
And all staff got told red alert, safeguard risk, because there were patients in there that I liked.
Right.
I liked them. They were nice blokes. I've sat down with them since they've been released from incarceration, and I see them now.
Wow, that's fascinating,
I sit and I speak to them.
So still to this day, you still speak to some of those guys?
Yeah, I still get phone calls from guys that are incarcerated in there that have got my mobile number, and they'll ring me up. I won't say names because you're not stopping it, but they do. They ring me, and we'll talk, and we'll talk about their incarceration or where they are on the journey. And
sorry for interrupting. So you're still in a way, still intrinsically linked. You're still kind of in touch with that, aren't you?
You still got to keep your finger in pies, haven't you? You know what I mean?
That's what fascinates me about you, mate. So you're still like, even though you've kind of that chapter's closed, you've gone away, you're still helping people.
Yes,
you've still got a handle on it and a touch on it. You still, that.
There's a patient in there, and he won't mind me saying this. I know for a fact he won't mind me saying it, but he'd been convicted of cultivating cannabis. And then his missus, like a lot of blokes will be able to resonate with this story. That's why I'm saying it. And I know that this fella won't have no problem with it. He got done for cultivating cannabis, and while he was on remand, his missus had done the dirty on him.
Oh.
So when he went to court, and they give him his community order like they do for growing a bit of pot for personal use or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I can't say he was doing because he won't mind as well. He was wholesale. He knows he was. He was big time Charlie with it, like. But we'd spoke to each other in the hospital. He was exactly the same age as me.
Yeah.
He was from a working class town.
Yeah.
In the Midlands. He put a big massive attachment on his dad, like I do. I idolise my dad. Massively. He's my hero. And you know, he liked smoking a bit of pot, and I did at the time. I liked smoking a bit of pot. I was like, you know what? You're not that much different than me.
Different to me.
You've not done a sexual offence. You've not done a violent offence. He'd gone in court. They'd give him the community order, and he said, "When you leave court today, sir, what are you going to do?" And he turned around and said, "I'm going to kill them two bastards that have been doing me dirty." Quite a normal thing to come out of a bloke's mouth in the moment.
Yeah, but that is enough for them, bound by tariffs.
Threat to kill.
Yeah, there you go.
Contempt of
tariffs,
court.
mate. Yeah.
Bomb, you go in prison.
And you're going.
Couldn't handle prison. Got sectioned.
And ended up there. So again, the system, it's broken.
Yeah.
And this is what I talked about. And again, this is why I was saying I needed someone like you on. It's all good to mention the fact and talking about mental health and depression, because we'll all have some understanding of depression in some way, but you've been on the inside.
Yeah,
you've been where it's
places.
most in its rawest form, and this is why I knew for a fact today you'd enlighten myself even. And like I said, a lot of this stuff I didn't even know myself, Josh. And it's
so that's what
it's fascinating and frightening at the same time, mate. It's fascinating and frightening.
I made a big deal out of this bloke. This is why I'm happy to talk about him, because we've related a lot. And he used to get leave in the community, and I'd take him out, and we'd have these 2-3 hours out at the hospital where where his levels would drop, and he'd talk, and I'd break confidentiality, and I'd break my employment contract, and he knew how old I were.
Yeah, and you
what I did, and he was not supposed to know any of this stuff. He knew where I were from, and
you'd give away a bit of self-reliance there.
Yeah, and I'd give away a bit of myself. Whereas normally, Josh, what did you do last night? You know you're not supposed to be asking that.
Nip in the bud.
Josh, how old are you? You know you're not allowed to know how old I am. And when you live every day like this, it becomes hard to give a little bit of yourself away.
So no matter how professional you work, because you strike me as the sort of guy who is going to, like, even from the story you've told so far, we can see you're professional, but even in those moments, humanity crept in.
Yeah, of course it did.
And you know,
because I looked at him and I thought, you know what, like, in all honesty, he grew some weed. I've grown weed.
Yeah, what?
Sorry, Mum. Sorry.
Yeah, just we'll have to. But, we both agreed, like, yes.
But
my mother knows I'm no angel anyway.
Well,
so.
My mum knows that I'm no angel. You know what I mean? But I've grown weed. He threatened to kill someone. I've threatened to kill someone.
I think we've all done that at some point.
He's been done dirty off his
whether
missus.
It's been away from prying eyes or ears, but we've all done it.
He's been done dirty off his missus. Well, over my past history, I have 2 of mine. The only one who's never done me dirty is the lady that I've got now.
Yeah.
The other 2 that come before have done me dirty, and I've been in long time return and multiple times over. So I thought,
we can all relate to that as well, fellas back home. But again, it's not gender specific. There's some rotten dogs out there from both genders. But yeah, we've all had that.
But yeah, that was my story at the time, and that was my sort of journey. So I like this fella, and the medium secure got a bit much for me. Not that I couldn't handle it. I just thought, you know what, I want to see other areas.
Right. I had
friends that were working on the low secure services where it was a bit more therapeutic. It was on medium secure, it's containment and pacifying, lad. Keep them calm, keep them chill, do it.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, they get more leave, so I'm out of the hospital a bit more. There's more activities, they're doing more. I'm going to go down there. So I went to the director of nursing. I sat down and I said, what a transfer. She said, you got to speak to your ward manager, runner. So I said, all right. So I went and spoke to her and I said, look, I'm just looking for a transfer down to low secure. Just give me a bit of respite and a bit of a break for a bit and, professional development. So she said, yeah, could do that, but, just know you're a good support worker on the ward and you were respected. And
nudge, Steve.
Yeah, I said, thanks, know. See you later. So they moved me to another building in the hospital, went down to a low secure. And then this patient I was talking about, he was ready for a move to a low secure.
Right.
So I'm like, right, if he's ready for a move to low secure, I'm going to go down to low secure because I wanted to get this guy out of this institution. In my head then at the time.
So this is like your
I thought, you shouldn't be in there. He shouldn't be in there. And I knew he shouldn't be in there.
So you've took this.
I took it as my own thing.
Yeah,
because he showed me his notes and they have section renewals.
Did you see a lot of yourself in this individual?
Yeah, man.
And you almost put yourself in that situation, and like you were freeing yourself.
Yeah, and I thought, what it were with me is, instead of like imagining him free, I imagined myself in his position.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I was in that shitty bedroom drinking lukewarm water on brews, giving the same shit food school meal menus all the time. He was a big fella, I'm talking 30 stone belly in between his legs.
Yeah.
He used to order £30 takeaways.
Jesus
and we got onto it, and I was like, come on, man, we can do it. He went to the gym, he lost a load of weight. Lost shitloads of weight, man. And I was like, you can do this, you can do it, you know what I mean? I was bigging him and I was like, come on, man. And he didn't really need it. I'm not going to say he needed it about like that, because he's just, his character, I can let you speak to him after this and he'll be happy to speak to you. He comes up every now and then, and I'll let you meet him, mate, because he's honestly like one of the top guys. But what he did is he came down to my service and they stagnated him. So I said to him, probably shouldn't have, but I said to him, you need to get moved to the other low secure, because you're going to get moved out if you do. You don't need to be on here, you're going to stagnate, because the staff on there weren't proactively getting people out, even though they're low secure service. There were people on low secure that have been there 7-8 years, and I'm like, these guys should be back out by now.
Yeah.
You know, they've already done 14-15 years before they've got here, some of these 20-30 years before they've got here.
Do they because like I know there's like the care system as well is broken, and I know there's like, do they benefit or in any way from keeping them there?
Shitload of money.
There you go. So it's going to so again.
Private healthcare, man. Some of these guys are $5,500 a week.
So in the end, it doesn't really matter if we fix the issues and then send them back out into society, productive members of it, armed and equipped with the mental tools to deal with the adversity that life throws at them. There's something about. So again, like many industries and many things, smoke and mirrors, like most charity workers and charitable people aren't right charitable.
No.
Yeah, I look in the camera now and say that. There's many of you out there, and I've spoke to some of you people out there that work for charities.
What did they say? What did that study say? Sorry to interrupt.
Who are you helping? No, sorry, but who are you guys helping really? Do you know, like I was talking to someone before and they were telling me, a charity, they were telling me about how much money they made off a raffle. Money you made. Hold on a minute. Do you see where I'm going with this now? And it's like there's many systems out there and many things that are just broken. They don't, even the prison system, it's broken. Come on, let's be honest. Even like the paedophiles, another taboo subject, but another thing that not many people like speaking about, but I don't think it should be treated as a criminal issue. You don't put a paedophile in with an ordinary decent criminal, an ODC. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't work. The system's broken, and I see this in many things. I have friends that work in the care sector. They work in care, and there's no. What I'm trying to say here is, without rambling on too much, is I don't think there is any end game. There's no resolve. There is no resolve to these issues. There's basically a patch up job. A smoke and mirrors, a little bit of a deflection. You can see this, look, we're helping here. But in the background, it's actually, they're not helping anybody. And it's broken like many systems. Again, I use the hyphens. Like many systems, absolutely broken. And sorry, I ended up going,
no,
on
it's
a
all
bit
right,
of a tangent.
mate. No, it's
It's only
problem.
because in theory, I'm passionate about these subjects, so I'm not actually ranting in theory, but I'm being assertive. That's in theory.
I think
I'll justify it with that.
I read a study. It'll be dated now, but it was quite a few years ago when they said that, you know, when the charities, and you don't £3, £5 a month's like common now, isn't it, for these charities?
Yeah.
They were saying by the time it goes through admin and get bounced down through all paid staff, 7%.
7%. It's the same with the
That's what makes it
same with the
Africa.
boxing shows, and you guys have been watching it. You know, you've done it. I don't listen, boys. If you need to make your money, you've got families, you've got mouths to feed. I understand.
Yeah, me
but
too,
but let's be honest, it's the same with anything that's charity. Only so much of a percentage has to go to charity. The world's run on tricks and scams, people.
You've got to weigh up as well with quite a lot of things like money, whatever it is, whether it's money, time. You've got to weigh up the gain like the gain versus integrity argument's a big argument, innit?
Is the juice worth the squeeze?
Do we give up our integrity for that?
We could branch out onto other. And do you know what? We could do this because Josh actually not only is a big boxing fan, he's actually boxed himself. He's actually got some experience. He's trained with me. I can tell he's boxed himself. But me and Josh speak about many things off camera. We speak about many things and the infrastructure of many things. And one of those things is the influencer boxing and all that side of thing. Now,
I'm happy to go on to that as well.
Me and Josh weren't going to elaborate today, but I think 33% volume cinnamon and whiskey flavoured Fireball helps with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
A couple of Fireballs at 11 o'clock and I'm ready for it now.
But this is my gripe, right? We have to say this now. Me and Josh have spoken about this.
Let's tackle it now.
The influencer boxing, the TikTok thing, the social media thing, this is my problem. Before I get pigeonholed and put into a certain bracket of being a hater, let me explain myself to you people now. Right, the world is run on tricks and scams, and these people on social media that are professing to be men of God, I'm looking right at you. If you think this applies to you, or if you're sat there thinking to yourself now that he's speaking about me, I'm actually generally speaking. But if you think you fit the profile, that tells you a lot about yourself, and you probably are the person I'm addressing here. Although I'm not speaking about any one person. It's bad enough that you talentless fuckers are making enough money off social media. That's fine. That's your lane. Stay in it. But when you come into my lane, don't expect me to be happy about the fact that you're getting opportunities and making more money than actual clean athletes who don't inject steroids, don't take drugs, still have their integrity intact and their self-respect and discipline. They're up at 5 a.m. running when there's no pollution about from the cars. They're perfecting the technique. They're trying to feed the families. And Kelly Sowland with his fucking jaw swinging side to side. And all these guys that are legitimising you guys. There's people out there that will never get recognised by any of those legitimate boxing men, Tony Bellew and everybody else that's on them fucking Misfits joker fucking scenes. That's a joke, that scene and that circuit.
It is.
So that's my feeling on that. You've got Afghan Dan spinning round 360 while someone's punching him in the back of the head. The referee's not pulling him on it. Do you know this sport's already dangerous enough and 13 people a year die on average in this sport, and you're maximising the risk by letting those fucking clowns do it? And not only that, they're making more money than legitimate athletes. That's my gripe. So don't pigeonhole me or put me in a fucking bracket of being a hater. I'm a truth teller and I speak the truth. And if you want the verbal post-mortem, I can fucking hand it to you afterwards. So if anybody's got a problem with what I've just said, you can appear in my inbox or 07888 955 932 and we'll fucking speak further on it. There you go.
Share the sentiments on it, you know I do.
Sorry about that, people. I got a bit. I've never
been as involved in the boxing scene as some people are. I like doing a bit of training for myself, my physical and mental health. I did a few little fights and stuff, but like any profession, I'm a professional myself. These pretenders who masquerade, there's pretenders who get involved, and like you said, the danger that's in the sport, what it takes, even on like I was the bottom level of this sport, man, unlicensed charity show. But to go through that 13, 14 weeks to get yourself ready for it, what you do.
You had
that little slightest little...
into what it takes.
Just literally the light flashed on and flashed off.
You're a very receptive guy, you, Josh. That's why.
So I've got that respect there.
You're not ignorant. You're not an ignorant man. It'd only take you. So, for example, some people might take 3-4 years before what I call a penny drop moment occurs. Whereas I reckon you get that in the first few months. You're very receptive.
Yeah,
very receptive, very understanding. But again, I'm not. Listen, I know guys. I've trained the guys that are doing the influencer thing. They're going on to Misfits, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Listen, if you're making a better life for you and your family, I tip my hat to you. But don't come into my lane. Don't come into boxing. Make more money than guys who deserve those opportunities and shots and paydays, and expect proper athletes and proper boxing men to be happy about it. That's all I'm saying to you people out there. Yeah. Each to their own, do what you have to do, but don't expect proper athletes and proper fighting men to be happy about that circus that is Misfits and KSR. But each to their own, mate. And like I say, I understand, but it ain't my thing. But yeah, so boxing, bare knuckle. You have a little bit of a handle on those. You've actually boxed before, haven't you, Josh?
Yeah, I've had a couple of fights, mate. Yeah, never.
So you've had a couple?
Yeah, I've had a few. Never really done that great with it, to be honest. you know, we've spoke about it off camera, haven't we? I'm going to have another throw of the dice. We're going to have another go. We're going to put proper
He's going to
training
roll the
in.
dice. He's going to roll the
I'm gonna
dice
do
with
it
me.
with
He's
these
paid for his block sessions. He's
Yeah,
in.
we're in.
We've got shows going, and I can announce this now because by the time this gets announced, we will have already secured and made it public. We'd have publicised this, so I can announce this. We have exclusive rights to Champness Hall in Rochdale, which is closer to this guy. So
Local for me.
we actually have some backing and sponsorship. We've got some big names on board. We've got Casual Minds Matter. Shout out to Casual Minds Matter, David Burnett, Patty Burnley, you guys. Massive shout out there, helping us secure sponsorship. They've got guys who are friendly with Ricky Hatton. I think there's a guy who I can't remember exactly what he does. He's going to be coming on board and helping us. So we've got a good team assembled. We've got a brilliant venue sorted out and locked in. And we've got some massive names, some huge names coming on. We've got Danny Christie, Scott McHugh's agreed to fight. We've got some tasty names. I don't want to say too many because we've not set it in stone. The fights aren't matched yet, but they've all agreed to fight. So we've got some massive shows coming this year, and Josh is going to be on those shows.
I am hopefully the same one as Scott McHugh because he's a big influence on me personally.
Yeah, shout out Scott McHugh.
Mate, I've
Shout
got to
out
say,
Scott
I've had a few
McHugh.
voice notes. I've only ever had a few voice notes off him and stuff, but when I started watching BKB, like he was the one. Him and Sean George.
Yeah,
I was
Sean
like,
George.
Sean
Massive
George
shout out
again.
to Sean George, the outlaw. What
Oh
an
my
absolute
God, man.
legend of a human being. What a guy. My
Did you
last
see the way he
fight,
trained?
unbelievable.
You see his
Something
you
else,
see his routine, mate.
Something else.
Have you seen that documentary?
The ice baths at 5 in the morning.
That
outside
documentary, he's on some slip at the side of a warehouse flipping tyres in the pitch black.
Yeah,
and he's out all day on the road.
Different man.
You
And let me
can't
tell
understand
you as
these
well,
blokes.
Sean George, he is what he appears to be. So when you see a lot of these guys on social media, on YouTube, on the videos, and they might not quite, it doesn't match up to what you see. I've met Sean George a couple of times, and he was at the last show I fought on. And he is a gentleman, and he's everything that he professes to be. He's an absolute gentleman, and do you know what? To even have him walk me out, I think he was like the whip, so to speak, where he comes and gets the fighters and brings them out. Because BYB, BKBTM have really looked after him, and that's another thing. I want to shout out to Jim Freeman, Dove, and Joe Brown. Regardless of what anyone's opinions or feelings are, them men, they are professional to the core. I dealt with those men.
And businessmen. This is what people seem to forget.
100%.
They're running a
So
business,
your
not a charity.
personal feelings towards them, I'm not inviting Jim and Joe around to my house to have a Sunday roast and that, We're not friends, but I'm saying as a professional, they were absolutely spot on in every regard. And put it this way, people talk about, I'm not mentioning numbers, people talk about, the pay. I got paid better with them as it is a professional boxer, so they were absolutely spot on, mate, and conducted themselves in a professional manner. But BYB, which I'm number 5 in the world with, by the way, but that's another story. I'm going to have to...
I've got a mate who fought on BKB, didn't he, as well? He's not fought on BYB. But my friend Martin Granger has fought
Martin Granger. Shout out to Martin Granger. Grid. That's
Another
how I
bloke.
know you as Grid. Another absolute monster of a man. A monster of a man.
And just while I'm on the subject of Grid as well, I will say, when you're talking about people who are the same behind the camera as when
They are in front. That's
like,
that man.
Grid, on serious levels, like that bloke is an absolute sweetheart of a man.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Proper teddy bear.
I'd never even, if you spoke to him and you didn't know what he did and he didn't have the big boxer's
You wouldn't
nose
guess
and
he
all
was
this,
a bare knuckle boxer.
you'd never even think that he threw a punch at anybody.
Yeah.
And you should get him on because his story and everything else is something that needs to be heard.
Maybe in episode 7 or 8, as I've got the episode. I've got episode 6 lined up, but we'll have to speak, my friend. Grid, we'll have to speak, my friend.
He's a sweetheart, and
I'm sure Josh will hand me your contact details, and
100%.
I'll be in touch, Grid. But you'll have some story to tell, no doubt, no doubt. So, Josh, what are your future plans, my friend? So, you're a Haywood lad. You've worked in the mental health sector from the age of 2021 through to your 26, 27.
Yeah.
You're a single parent. You've now got your partner who also has a child. You've got that little family unit going. What are your future plans? So career-wise and boxing-wise, what are your future plans, brother?
Yeah, career-wise, I don't work in mental health anymore. I'm an engineer, but my plan is to...
An engineer? So
without one,
sorry,
yeah,
mate. So an engineer,
go back,
man.
So I came out of mental health, and I know you said what changes would I bring just to drag ourselves back a little bit because we digress, but I would change mental health services. We need more intervention in the community. We need more support in the community. We need to put more money into our communities. That's on all levels.
Yeah,
On the wealth that we hold in our community assets need to be released back to the community, so there can be a greater benefit to the community, which is a big passion of mine. We need to be putting more ownership on the government to bring community services in, because what we've allowed ourselves to do is establish amazing charities that are doing amazing stuff on supporting people with mental health, but we've allowed ourselves to go peer to peer with this stuff.
right.
I help you with your mental health, you help me, and the government are allowed to take a back step from this stuff, are allowed to divert funds to other things, are allowed to shine a spotlight in other areas.
When it needs to be.
As males, we need to be vocal about it. We need to be loud and proud about it.
Brings us on to our next point as well.
The vast majority of the suicides and people that are dying and taking their own lives are men.
And I'm glad now that Josh, sorry for interrupting you, but on this segment I wanted to just give a little shout out to Gennady Grajevsky, the Lithuanian Scouser, a friend of mine, and I've got goosebumps now just even speaking about him. I was at your funeral yesterday, brother. What a beautiful service that your twin daughters and your missus and everybody else involved give you such a send-off, my brother. And do you know what, mate? I can forgive you for nearly breaking my ribs. I knew it when you were doing that little shadowboxing segment on the inside, mate. Other fighters told me he did it with them, so I don't know. I don't know what that was. He was hilarious.
Did it to everyone.
He used to just come and like show you some inside work, and I'm like, mate, you're nearly cracking my rib. But he was the only guy with an Eastern European Scouse accent. And listen, I love you, brother. And God rest you and your family, mate. I spoke to your missus yesterday, and I seen her there. If you know, what a beautiful service, and it's hit me hard. I say it has really hit me hard, and I didn't really want to elaborate on that, but more people from the boxing world should have been there. That's all I'm going to say. But God rest you, my brother, and what a beautiful service for a beautiful man and an absolute warrior. And you should have been allowed to get to 100 fights, in my opinion. Yeah, God rest you, brother. But yeah, go on, my man.
But yeah, that's what I'd change. I think we've allowed governments and powers that be to not really be that serious about it. Even when we've had big high profile things happen and people die or take their own lives, or substance misuse linked with, the press and stuff like this, we never really bring any substantial change. And I think we need to preempt it, and we need to get it before we get to the point where
it's too late.
Yeah, where we
can't just pass
institutions that are overwhelmed. We've got prisons full of people, we've got psychiatric hospitals full of people,
and it's not getting. These numbers aren't going down, are they, mate?
No.
And this is another thing I want to lead to. Me and Josh may be in the future working together.
Yeah,
we've not. It's all hypothetical at the minute.
Yeah,
we don't want to when we've not got anything in black and white, but we want to start working together. Maybe even he might even co-hosting a few of these podcasts with me in the future, because certain guests we have on, and as you can tell just from Josh being on here today, he's quite eloquently spoken. He doesn't struggle or stutter when he's speaking, and he has a very, very good understanding through working in the mental health sector and in that field for 5-6 years. Was it, Josh? About 5-6 years.
Yeah.
He has a good understanding, and I'd love to have him on and work with him in the future. But yeah, so we've covered your career, we've covered your family life, where you grew up.
Yeah,
we've covered all that, your future plans. But boxing specifically, right?
Boxing specific.
Boxing, because I've noticed through watching you, you're quite talented. You're not. You can do a bit. You might not be. We don't look the most physically gifted, genetically gifted guys, but I think our best asset is our brain, and
that's why we have weight classes.
It is indeed.
Weight classes.
So we're going to get him down to bantamweight. We're going to start blowing all your bantamweights out the water.
Get ready for me, I'm coming.
I noticed when Josh trained with me that he has a good understanding of technique and shape and form and body mechanics, and I think that if he committed to training and actually committed, like the Josh you've just seen unfold before your eyes in the last 50 minutes to an hour, that sort of Josh applied himself. So imagine the Josh that applied himself in that field of expertise with the mental health. He applies himself into boxing in that way. I truly believe you could do well. I'm not talking we're going to be signing no fucking professional contracts or getting on misfits
that business,
and
and as well,
do a bit.
Just to touch on that as well, because I know you made a comment on misfits. I don't care who comes for me. I don't care who doesn't give a shit about my opinion. I don't care who says who's this crooked little fucking scrawny guy talking shit. Misfits boxing is a cancer on boxing.
Thank you.
It's a cancer.
It makes it okay to grow. Yeah,
it's
if
going
it's,
to,
it's
gonna
like a
kill it.
tumour, and like I say, I've tried. I deactivated my Facebook because if I'd have gone on and done a video and done a live and read posts, one, probably people wouldn't have took a fucking notice, and secondly, I'd have probably upset some people that I know, so I refrained from it. But on this podcast, I've had a couple of fireballs, and it's lowered the inhibitions and loosened them.
We're all big and brave now.
And then I'm fucking, and I just think sometimes you got to call. In fact, I'm going to do a little segment once a week where I call it the spade hour, where certain topics every week I speak on, and we call a spade, which is missing now in society, where I tell you, I look you in the eyes like I'm looking into this camera and tell you the fucking truth. And sometimes people don't like that. I'm self-aware, and I feel that self-awareness is lacking in most men nowadays.
Definitely.
So self-awareness, if you need me to explain it to you, it's where you're aware of oneself. Quite self-explanatory. You know what you're saying, you know what you're doing. Start showing some self-awareness, fellas, yeah?
Yep.
Start showing some, or expect me to come for you. And like I say, I will fucking come for you. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. But most fighting men now like to have the advantage of, well, I can just bang him if he talks shit about me. Well, you don't have that advantage over me, so come and fucking see me whether you want verbal resolution, otherwise I can fucking play either game, yeah? So we'll play that. So we're going to end this podcast pretty soon, but Josh, I'd just like to say, first of all, what a pleasure it's been to have you on.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure,
What an absolute pleasure. I've got a funny feeling that you're the sort of guest that could easily have a part 2 and 3.
Could quite easily do, yeah. I could
easily have
go
a
more
part
into
2
my
and 3.
family. I could go more into my family history and my get up and stuff like that.
Well, you know what? While we're sat here now, let's divulge.
Yeah,
Let's go. First and foremost, I'd like to shout out to Birdland Studios. Yeah, Birdland
Shout
Recording
out, Jordan.
Studios. The man in the back here who's recording this, we're going up a level this year, yeah? We're going up a level. We're going to start going up a level in production value and everything. But this man has conducted these podcasts here. He's worked around me. He's a busy man. He has his own schedule, and he's conducted these podcasts here, and he's done a brilliant job. He does all the editing for me because I'm a dinosaur. I don't have a clue what I'm doing there. So a massive shout out to Birdland Recording Studios.
100%.
And I've got a funny feeling it's going to be start of something beautiful that's going to grow and expand. So
Yeah, I agree.
I'd like to go a little bit more into that before we shut off, because you just said then you've got more to say, man.
I've got a lot more to say, yeah. I mean, I just wanted to if we do come on to a part 2, 3, whatever it is, I can go in more depth. But while I'm on here, it wouldn't be right to
Exactly.
not
We're
at least
sat here
touch
now,
on my
at least touch
family.
on it,
And,
man, brother.
you know, my mum and my dad, our kids, my missus, and then just a little bit of what I'm going to try to do this year, just to wrap it up. I think.
Good man.
Yeah, my mum and my dad are typical working class people from a working class town. I'm from Heywood, which has an industry in the cotton mills, and obviously when the cotton industry disappeared, my grandparents worked in the cotton mills. Granddad was a builder. I've only got one surviving grandparent, who's my granddad. He's in his 80s. Norman Lonergan was a builder. My family history is enshrined in Heywood.
So you are Heywood. That is the central. Yeah, that is.
When you go into the park,
You trace your bloodline back to the.
Yeah, we're Heywood.
Yeah,
we're Heywood.
Shit, we'll go in on about your family.
Yeah, my family. I'm just gonna wrapping up, but I'll talk a little bit about my family and a little bit about my future plans, and just touch on what you said earlier about what I'd change, because I digressed. But yeah, my family, mum and my dad, are my heroes, man. They are my heroes. I'll always say that.
Both still here,
Both still here. I'm blessed. I've got one brother, Exton, he's called. He's 2 years younger than me. I've got a nephew. I've got a sister-in-law who's absolutely an incredible woman with just endless amounts of patience that you just don't see in people.
Patience of a saint.
Yeah.
It's a dying trait to have
just
that,
unreal, mate. Just unreal. And I'm blessed with my family. The way they supported me, they've put up with me at times. They've tolerated me when other people wouldn't. My dad is the reason that I'm an engineer. I just wanted to be like my dad. Just wanted to be like my old boy, and I just wanted to be as cool as he is, you know what I mean? So
sorry, mate. Again, even if I had 5 minutes, I don't mind paying a bit extra.
Yeah.
Engineering. So that was your profession and field of expertise after the professional.
Yeah, so what happened where I was working in the hospital and I was doing, like I said, I was working with sexual offenders and violent offenders predominantly. And then I met my ex, like we touched on earlier, and I had a child at home. It just blurred lines, cross
Yeah,
wires.
yeah.
Weren't happy with it. It took its toll on me as well, working in an institution, if I'm being honest. And my dad come to me and said, look, he's maintenance manager at a galvanising plant at Steelworks, and he just said, they've told me I can take on an apprentice. Do you want to do it? And
Yeah.
you know, I had a family to support, so I was like, what's the money going to be like? And he was like, not great, but do your overtime and you'll pull through. Short-term suffering, long-term gains.
Yeah.
I'd always looked up to him. I'd always been on foreigners with him at weekend and stuff. And I
Yeah,
thought,
yeah.
you know what? I want to be as cool as you. So I did. I thought I can tick the boxes off when you're a kid and you look up to them and you do, don't you? And
Yeah,
you're
I
like,
understand that.
and,
Yeah.
and so, you know, I did. So I went into it, and that's how I got into it. I got the daddy privilege to get me in through the door. But then,
Yeah,
but then I
yeah.
sort of grafted and earned
And
my own
applied
merit
yourself.
from there.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, I work as an engineer. Company, one of your sponsors earlier, seemed like they do similar. To be fair, I do inspection and testing on lifting equipment and accessories. So I'm a lifting engineer. Cranes, chains, slings, won't bore anyone, but that sort of general stuff is what I do now.
Yeah.
Yeah, my family. I'm a family man. They're big important
I
to
could
me.
tell that from the off,
they're
mate.
big important to me. My dad. Yeah, if I'm being totally honest, my dad will always have rays of sun shining out of his backside to me, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And that's never
yeah.
going to change. I look at him, and even now when I just think about the guy, he makes me smile.
Yeah,
you
I
know what
understand.
I mean? He's just,
I understand, bro.
he's just-
My
he
dad
just
had
is
all
what
his
it is.
faults, but still he was a god.
Yeah, you know, he's just a god.
Yeah,
he's just like dad,
can't be
you know, he's
touched.
just like
100%. I understand that.
don't ever
brother.
say a bad word about the bloke, you know what I mean? And my brother, my mama is just, my mama is the reason, like, when people say to me, like, how can you do what can you do? How do you think about things the way you do? How do you have that kindness? And that comes from
that woman.
That's my mama, you know, like my mama is
Empathy,
just the
consideration,
purest,
just pure,
most
yeah.
selfless.
It's missing now, bro.
It's
Empathy,
just, mate,
consideration.
like,
It's gone,
even
bro.
now,
The
mate,
human beings are gone,
I'm a
Josh.
35-year-old man, yeah. I'm a 35-year-old father. My mum will make sure I've got them butties for my day at work.
Yeah, trusty old mum, mate.
She
Love your
would,
mum. She's
like,
out there now.
seriously.
She's still going. She'll be
Like,
watching this.
she's
Mum. Love your mum.
absolutely just like, what, you know, like, how do you even, I look at her and I just think, how do you even be
That way,
what you
pure.
are?
The strength that they have
Just
and the
that,
resilience. It's
what she's
something
come through and what
unflinching.
yeah, it's just,
unflinchingly by your side, aren't they, mate?
I don't say it
Unflinching,
enough. I don't say it enough. Maybe not about my mama. I possibly don't say it enough, which is why I've took the opportunity now. But
Yeah,
like,
good man.
she's my queen, you know, and like, I can't even fathom or begin to imagine
What life would have been without her.
where I have to wake up and she's not here.
Yeah.
Or I've not got her anymore because she's, and it wasn't just me who say it, like anybody who comes into contact with my mum will say the same.
She's a beautiful human being.
My mama's just a pure soul,
Just
you
a
know.
beautiful human being,
Just
yeah.
absolutely just. My brother's my, you know, he's my brother. He's
And this is your younger brother?
Yeah, he's 2 years younger than me,
2
our
years
kid.
younger.
He's 2 years younger, our kid, and
33.
yeah, and he's had his struggles. But he's got a beautiful family. His struggles have not been like mine were through lifestyle choices. It's been
Is the Emmott your dad's side?
yeah,
Emmott
my surname is Lonergan Emmett, so I've got a double-barrel surname.
Double-barreled name,
Yeah,
yeah.
Lonergan's my mum, and obviously comes traditionally from the Irish side, and Emmett traditionally is a French name. You've got Emmett Hall over near Haworth, Clitheroe way over there, and I think
Right.
when the lineage got traced, at one point or another, we originally came over with William the Conqueror and sort of raped and pillaged the land, and got given the land that Emmett Hall stands on. Because my dad's like a direct descendant of the Emmets of Emmett Hall as well. But yeah, that's where it sort of comes from. My brother's not had his struggles like I did through bad or poor choices. It's been mainly from anxiety and the effects of mental health and the strain and pressures of being a man in the modern world, but it's not something that he really suffers with so much anymore. I have a sister-in-law who's an incredible woman with untold levels of patience and understanding for stuff, and I have a nephew who is just oh man, I can't even tell you what that kid's like. Seriously, like he's just an absolute firecracker. He's mint.
Full of beans,
Oh, he's
just full of
something else,
life.
mate. And him and Presley, and then
They just when they get
yeah.
together, I can imagine it like a powder
yeah,
keg.
yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then I have my girlfriend.
But
you
you
know,
gotta take that all in, bro. That's the beautiful
this is it.
stuff.
I try to just embrace and enjoy
Every minute and take
what's
it in.
here,
Do you ever
innit?
find yourself? Do you ever find yourself just like watching your kids sometimes, even
All
in
the
little,
time.
yeah.
And sometimes I get
think,
bollocked for it.
and I think to myself, I wonder if they catch me now clocking, they'll
Yeah.
think I'm fucking weird, but
Yeah.
they don't understand. They've not been to where I've been
Yeah.
to in my head to be able to sit back, take stock, and
Yeah.
go, "Wow, this is beautiful."
And sometimes having mum come to me as well and say like, you do know you just sat there for the afternoon.
Yeah,
You've not-
but
you've-
because you've been taking it
You've
in.
not done that with him. You've
Yeah,
not
but
gone
I have,
out. You've
I
not
have
played
in my own
games. I'm
mind,
like,
I've done something.
I'm
yeah.
like, I'm just enjoying the
The
miracle.
moment, man, I shouldn't be here. I should be fucking round the twist.
Just like, what is
100%.
I was training with Jamie Hay at the time. I weren't training with him. I was being trained.
And Jamie
off him.
Hay is,
Jamie Hay
for the people
is,
who don't know back there.
Jamie Hay is an MMA fighter. He's a black belt in BJJ, and he fought on Bellator. And he's been to that level on Bellator.
So some serious credentials there, people.
He's a local lad to me. He's somebody who played a very big part. I would have never stepped foot in the ring without him. I wouldn't have had the confidence.
So without Jamie Hay, you and combat sports never would have been a thing.
Never.
Shout out Jamie Hay.
Yeah, I'd have never done anything like it or similar. And at the time when I went to him, I said to him, "Look, I've got a bucket list to achieve before I'm 40. I want to get in a boxing ring."
And you approach. So your very first direct contact with anyone in combat sports is Jamie Hay.
Jamie A. And I turned
before
up
that, it was just a thought in your mind.
Yeah. I thought, I know how to throw a dig. I've been beat up a few times.
So
I've given a couple of beatings out, so I'm all right, you know what I mean? I can
bob
bob
both
and
ends of the
weave.
fence.
Yeah, I know how to give a smack and give it knees up if I need to, or stand and give a bit if I need to. But I messaged Jamie and I said, look, I want to improve my physical health and my mental health, and I want to try and get in a ring. I've got a few things that I want to do before I'm 40. I'm still working through the list now, and he said, come down. And he didn't just say, come down and do a bit of training. I became a friend of his. I've been in his home, his children.
Oh, so you've
my
actually
children.
you've been in his personal space. That's when you see a man in his rawest form around his family, in his home.
We watched the Euro finals, when England got to the Euro finals a few years back and lost on penalties.
So you watched
we were
that
all
with
out
Jamie
with him,
Hay?
with Jamie A and Sam Kelly. And
So you've rubbed shoulders with some...
I've done all right for me.
Quite
You know what
fascinating
it is with me?
sports
Yeah,
world.
do you know what it is with me? Even though I've not got the credentials and the experience in combat sports,
You
I've
can
found this in
walk
other industries.
Yeah.
I managed to talk myself, even if I go in and I talk myself, I talk my way into it and build respect that way.
I used to always, and I'm going to give a shout out to a guy now who's no longer here, yeah? Chris Wheeldon, R.I.P. Chris Wheeldon, yeah? And it just reminds me of something he said to me, fake it till you make it.
Yeah, just get in there.
And you strike me as that sort of guy who can talk and walk his way into any position
I'll
and
get
then
in
go,
there.
shit, I best get fucking efficient in this area now. But you're already in.
Yeah,
but
once
that
I'm in,
fascinates me about you, mate. And like I said many times with sport, there's a reason you've ended up on this podcast, mate. I've always said I wanted to give the little man a voice, but at the same time, if the little man has nothing to say, then it's no good.
I've always had a belief in myself, and I'll say this, and I say it to my son all the time, and I say it to my girlfriend's daughter as well. If there's somebody out there doing it, that means you can.
100%.
Because they've gone and learned how to do it.
How to do it.
As long as you're willing to put the time into it and you've got the patience for it, and you'll go back and you'll fail, and you'll go back and you'll fail, and you'll go back and you'll succeed. And as long as you're willing to do it, you'll do it. Because I was getting into my late 20s when I started going into engineering, and now I'm an engineer.
Yeah.
Before that, I was a mental health worker.
Yeah.
In between them, I decided to go and do a bit of self-employed work. On the side of that, I decided that I was going to get in a ring and do a bit of boxing. On the side of that, I decided I was going to go do a bit of travelling. On the side of that, I made a family and had a kid. So you can do it if you want to.
Do you think as well you're one of them guys who, I don't know, I'll probably see in a hot air balloon in a year's time, and then I'll probably see you out in Hawaii or something. Do you think you're one of them guys who will never be able to rest on his laurels? You'll never be able to stay in one place and settle. Are you that type of guy? You strike me as that sort of guy who...
To some extent, yeah. I mean, I'm a
never
creature of comfort.
Yeah, but at the same time, because I don't know about you, mate, but I know myself. If I rest on my laurels and I sit in the comfort zone too long, I'll become depressed. and
Yeah.
a need to chase something.
gotta
You
do
strike me as that sort of guy,
Yeah.
whether it's the mental health sector, whether it's boxing, you're unlocking doors
Yeah.
to certain aspects, psychological aspects, and it's making you more wise to the world and other things. And that's why, like I say, I think when I've spoken to you, I can see that in you. There's a certain
I don't think anybody should ever
inquisitive, there's a
stop.
certain inquisitive nature to you that I find fascinating.
Oh, thanks, man.
Whether it's the mental health sector, boxing, and you've got a certain inquisitive nature to you that's like it's quite refreshing. But you strike me as one of those guys that could turn his hand at anything and have a go at it, you know, to some degree, you know, like you have a lot of gumption, don't you? You have a lot
Yeah, I'm
of
confident in
sticking
saying I'd
power.
have a go at it.
You have a lot of sticking power.
Yeah.
You sort of get, so for example, if I'm not good at something, I leave it.
No, I won't
Whereas,
do that.
there you go. So
I
you're
feel
the sort of
so-
guy who goes, right, I don't like the fact I'm not good at that. I'm going to fucking make myself good at that. I'm going to be efficient in that area. You strike me as one of those sort of guys who can turn his hand to any one thing he wants.
Yeah, I suppose so, because I have that belief in myself. Like I said before, if somebody else is doing it, then I can learn how to. It just is what it is. That's just the way it is.
I think it's your brain, though, me, mate.
Nobody's learned how to lay bricks without going and getting bricks, mixing some mortar and cement, and trying to lay them. So if I've got to go out there for a few days and build 4 walls that fall down, eventually it might be the 5th one, it might be the 10th one, it might be the 100th one.
Yeah,
But
you
one of
will
them
get
walls
there.
is going to stay up, and I'll get there.
So
won't I?
before Presley, when you were in the mental health sector, you didn't have Presley,
No.
and then Presley came post
Yeah.
working.
Yeah, what I did is I left.
So when you were working that mental health sector, you didn't have to work in that field. There was no responsibility there. I need to go out and get that job. But when you went into the engineering, that was engineering more of an obligation.
No, engineering was the career choice.
That was actually what
That
you
was the
wanted
conscious.
to
That
do.
was the
So
this is where the money is. This
The
is where
mental
the
health, was that more, I'm trying to build a CV, we'll see how this goes, or was that the same? I'm trying to figure out.
No, it was a passion. It was a passion. It's still a passion. It will always be a passion for me because I was the cliche.
I should know that, to be fair, because like you said, sorry for interrupting you again, like you said, you stayed in touch with that one guy.
I did stay in touch with
Now,
him.
if that was just a career to you, I should have known there. If that was just a career to you, you would have just cut all ties with that.
I don't
gentleman, but you
think.
didn't.
I think like if you speak to people who are in care work or support work, they won't see it as a career. They'll see it as a vocation. So it's sort of a lifestyle choice. You know what I mean?
Like that.
Like boxing.
Flip on the perception, yeah,
like boxing.
that.
A boxer doesn't just turn up on a Saturday and box.
And then expect,
It's his lifestyle.
His life, the whole
it's
week,
his
the
lifestyle
whole
choice.
mind.
It's everything.
Yeah.
And that's what that is. It's a vocation and a lifestyle choice. So at the time, yeah, it was what put the food on the table. It's what paid me. It's what did what it needed to do. But just like a boxer gets paid from throwing his hands about and hopefully bobbing and weaving and not getting hit as many times as the other guy, you know what I mean?
So that's what I'm saying. I had to do that as a profession. My job was getting to the final bell.
Yeah.
What makes Josh Emmott tick? What is your, so for example, you've done the mental health, you've done the engineering.
Yeah.
What is it you would like to finish off doing? What is it you would like to do
I want
for a living? Or do you know, like, what is your niche? You know, what is your thing? What is your yin to your yang? What is it you want to do in life? Because boxing, I get the sense that's more of a hobbyist type.
It is, but it's a passion as well, and it's something that I want to start linking into stuff, and I've spoke about it. I've wrote a 14-week programme for bringing boxing, BJJ and combat sports into schools and pupil referral units. I've reached out to marginalised groups to try and bring that into
Brilliant.
it.
Now, see, when I tell you about working, sorry, mate, I've interrupted you about 5 times. See, now when he's mentioned this here about the bringing it into the curriculum, I work in schools with underprivileged children, whatever title you want to assign to them. I just think the normal children that have fallen folly to the indiscrepancies and inequalities that working class life produces. But these kids and that, you know, like the what you'd class as naughty children, but I work with them, and I've always found that you got maths, English, science, and whatever else, the usual mainstream things, but what about the kids that are dead confused and they can't understand those concepts or those subjects? And I found that in those classes that I was doing with those kids, they were relating to me on a different level, and they would understand certain concepts, and they would listen to me. They would listen to me. Sometimes the mainstream ideas and the mainstream school, sometimes it's hard to articulate what I'm trying to say, but I don't believe that mainstream schooling necessarily works. And
It didn't for me.
it didn't for me either. I believe that there's a lot of inequalities that are producing certain behaviours, and instead of looking at that, we're marginalising and we're just pigeonholing people. Say, oh, he's naughty, he's this, or we'll label it this. He's got ADHD. We'll put him on medication. Yeah, they did the same with me when I went to the doctors, but I never took any of that medication. And yeah, it is what it is. But I got on a little bit of a rant there, mate. I always end up going off on the thing.
I'll summarise it. I'll summarise it, and I'll drag us back to a few things as well.
Good man, Josh.
And then obviously my mate Grid had got on to BKB. And my mate Grid's fought Jack Massey, Ibert Chamberlain.
Oh, there you go. Say no more, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone who's in boxing knows them names.
Yeah. And he beat, do you remember Tony Cruz?
Of course I do.
And there was a big hype
and
about
a big
him,
hype around him at one point.
My mate Grid went to Barnsley and beat him.
So was it at Metrodome?
I don't know if it was at Metrodome, but he went to Barnsley.
If it was, that's the Mecca.
In his back garden.
That's
you know what
insane,
I mean? So my mate Grid then got on to BKB, and you've got to bear in mind.
So BKBTM, that's who he was with then at that point.
With
Jim
Brown,
Jim Freeman Dove and Joe Brown. Massive
Brown.
shout out to them two fellas.
And obviously before that, I'm a fan of BKB. Like I said before, with Sean George and the mute Scott McHugh, and
Shout
other
out.
lads, Daniel Lowell, I'll say now,
Boom!
and what he does with
Autism.
and you know,
Daniel Lurwell, shout out. You boys in the valleys are fucking cut from different cloth.
mate, how do they make them like that? What's the other fella called now? That Gatchi.
There's no ball
Gatchi,
plexes
that's
or
what it's
fucking
called.
cinemas
Is that
round
what it's
there.
called?
Yeah,
Gareth Williams.
Gatchi, and
My
also
God.
that
And Marshall.
the lad I was supposed to fight in February, but I can't remember his name. Is you're lucky you've now got somebody else, mate, 'cause I'd have opened you right up like a tin of beans, son. No, you're a talented lad, but I would have honestly felt like you've never fought a man like me in your life, son. And I'd have tested you to a different level, mate.
Sure
The guy you fought in Wolverhampton, or wherever it was, he was already halfway down onto canvas before you hit him, pal. I'm a different breed, brother. You'd have felt number 5 in the world right there. But all the best to you, mate, and I hope you do well. But you're lucky you ain't got me. That's all I'm saying.
I'm sure your paths might cross at some point.
No, definitely not. Well, this is another thing we have to. I'm glad you brought me onto this, mate. But by the time this gets released, and I'd have already spoke on it. I'm gonna have to retire fully. So this is actually the first time anyone's ever heard this. I'm gonna have to retire fully. I've got degenerative bone erosion in my wrists. I've got the early signs of rheumatoid arthritis, which is a battle in itself. And it makes sense now with the stuff I struggled with in the last 2 years of my pro career, but I'm a fucking man's man. So I battled through it, and none of you prospects did fuck all to me. Took you all the distance. Yeah, a lot of shit went down, but like I say, my body's now absolutely knackered, and I've probably got CTE waiting for me in my 50s. Well, then weight cuts that I made as well, and like I say, I'll elaborate further on certain topics, and whether the British Boxing Board of fucking control like it or not, it is what it is. And certain things happen, and the infrastructure of boxing is broken, and certain things happen that shouldn't happen. And if this gets me in trouble saying this, like I say, people have spoken in the past about weight cuts and stuff, and they've been bringing boxing into disrepute,
Yeah,
so
I don't even
to
have
speak.
that much respect for that fella, because I
But
know what you're on about there.
Disrepute,
he was right,
you know,
what
like
he
he's
said.
telling the truth, and then this thing like, listen to me now, people. I've got a lot of love for the Central Area Boxing Board. They did a lot for me, but I'll just end it there, because if I don't, I'm gonna end up in a lot of fucking trouble. What I have to say now to sign out is this is episode 5. Me and Josh Emmott. This has been a brilliant podcast, and for me, quite enlightening. Massive shout out to Birdland Recording Studios and Jose Birdman. This man is an absolute top man. He gives us this fucking studio on a moment's notice, and we get to conduct these podcasts. So I'll leave it at that. God bless everybody. Episode 5 of the Cobra Cast. Over and out. Boom. Good lad.
Go get some
Good
scrap,
lad.
man.
Let's go get some food.